When you walk into a hospital, there is this underlying assumption that everything just works, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You just expect it to.
Right. You hear that rhythmic beep of a heart monitor, or you see the steady drip of an infusion pump, and you just trust that the machine's keeping you or, your loved ones alive are completely infallible.
But the reality behind the scenes is quite a bit more precarious than that.
It really is. I mean, imagine for a moment the actual technician who just serviced your life support system. Imagine they are completely green, like fresh out of school on their very first day, staring down this incredibly complex piece of machinery that they have literally never touched before.
That's a terrifying thought.
It is. And how do we prevent a fatal mistake in that exact scenario?
Well, it's not just a hypothetical, right? It represents a massive, hidden, real-world crisis that's currently unfolding across, well, pretty much all high-stakes industries.
Right, because we are watching the most seasoned workers just, pack up their desks and retire.
Exactly. And they're taking decades of physical, hands-on intuition with them when they walk out the door.
So today is July 2nd, 2026, and we are unpacking a breaking press release from EON AI Ventures that just dropped this morning. It introduces something called EON Universal for Healthcare.
Which is a huge leap forward.
It is. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how artificial intelligence is stepping in to solve this vanishing workforce problem. Moving beyond just like generating text on a screen to actually physically understanding complex mechanical work.
Yeah, the physical aspect is what changes the game entirely.
And I want you, the listener, to pay really close attention here, because this new technology, which they are dubbing work intelligence, is about to completely redefine how human expertise is transferred. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Before we can grasp what EON Universal is actually doing, we have to understand the mechanics of why the current training system is so dangerously broken. We are facing what the sources call an expertise cliff.
Yeah, across healthcare right now, senior clinical engineers are rapidly aging out of the workforce. And these are the people with that hard-won judgment.
Right, the ones who just know exactly what a weird hum in a ventilator means without even needing to look at a manual.
Exactly. And as they leave, the device fleets they manage are only growing larger and, honestly, far more complex.
And they are being replaced by biomedical equipment technicians who are, just starting out. They're rookies.
Right. And the thing is, in corporate IT, a rookie mistake might just, crash a server for an hour. But in clinical engineering...
it's an immediate escalation problem.
Yes, it is a direct threat to patient safety.
And the way the industry has historically tried to bridge this gap feels, completely unsustainable. Like, hospitals pour so much money into vendor-supplied content.
Training courses, yeah.
Right, training courses tied to one specific make and model of a machine. You spend a week learning everything about the Super Pump 3000.
And then the very next device in your repair queue is a totally different brand.
Exactly. A different model, maybe it's 10 years older. Trying to train a technician by making them memorize every single medical device is it's like trying to teach a foreign language by making someone memorize every possible sentence they might ever say.
Right, it's endless. It just doesn't scale.
It's totally hopeless.
Yeah.
Let me challenge the premise here for a second. If enumeration, this endless listing and memorizing of specific models, is so fundamentally flawed, why did it become the industry standard in the first place?
Yeah.
Why couldn't we just digitize the repair manuals or, record the retiring experts doing their job?
Because digitizing a manual or just recording a video of an expert doesn't solve the core issue, which is human judgment.
Okay, right.
A video is static. It can't look at a machine it has never seen before, assess its current physical state, and then adapt the instructions on the fly.
That makes sense.
Hospitals were trapped in this paradigm of enumeration because, honestly, until recently, technology just couldn't offer a scalable alternative that possessed actual spatial and mechanical reasoning.
And that is exactly where EON Universal flips that entire model.
Yes. The new standard it proposes is that a green worker should be able to walk up to a totally unseen medical device, have the system recognize it instantly, and then guide them step by step based on live conditions.
And critically, it can actually halt the procedure and escalate to a human expert the moment the AI is unsure.
Right. So the worker might be green, but the guidance they are receiving is veteran.
I love that. And the sources call this core insight composition over enumeration. The idea is that a hospital isn't just one giant monolith of endless variations.
No, it's actually built from a finite library of known device classes.
Right. You have your infusion pumps, ventilators, monitors, defibrillators, analyzers. They might look slightly different from one ward to the next, but the underlying mechanical building blocks, they remain the same.
To borrow your language analogy from earlier, you essentially stop trying to memorize every sentence and you start learning the vocabulary and the rules of grammar.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Once you understand the underlying structure, you can construct any sentence. EON Universal doesn't try to model every single hospital on Earth. It just models the foundational device classes that every hospital is built from.
And when you look at the actual numbers behind this bounded library, the level of consolidation is pretty remarkable.
It really is. They break this vocabulary down into 3 tiers. Tier 1 consists of just about 50 core device classes.
Just 50.
Yeah, but those 50 classes cover more than 80% of all biomedical work orders. And in fact, about 15 of those classes carry the bulk of the daily value.
Wow. And then you step down to Tier 2, which maps out about 300 specific types, like the various makes and models, mostly just to ensure the AI is rarely surprised by the outer casing of what it's looking at.
Right. And finally, Tier 3 gets incredibly granular. This encompasses 1,000 to 2,000 maintainable items.
So we are talking about like the individual sensors, batteries, valves, circuit boards.
Exactly. And what makes this bounded library truly functional in the real world is that they didn't just invent some proprietary categorization system from scratch.
Right. They built this entire vocabulary on existing ISO medical device nomenclatures, specifically the systems known as GMDN and UMDNS.
Yeah.
And let's clarify what those acronyms actually mean for the hospital floor. GMDN essentially acts as a universal barcode system.
Basically, yeah.
It is the standardized inventory language that hospitals already use globally to track their medical assets. By building the AI on those exact standards, EON Universal speaks the hospital's native data language from day one.
Which is huge for integration.
Right. When the system recognizes a ventilator, it isn't just like an isolated visual event. That recognition maps directly into the hospital's existing asset register and pulls the specific service history for that exact machine.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the business economics shift completely from a liability to an asset.
How so?
Well, under the old model of enumeration, costs scale linearly with the number of hospitals. Every time a new facility opens, you have to map its unique inventory from scratch. That's a cost that recurs forever.
Oh, I see.
But composition scales with a bounded set of component classes.
Yeah.
You train the AI on those 50 core classes once. And because it is a shared universal library, every time a technician uses the system to repair a pump in Tokyo, the system's understanding of that device class actually improves for a technician working in London.
So it's an asset that compounds in value over time.
Exactly.
Okay, but let me push back again on this whole idea of a finite library, because hospitals are notorious for hoarding legacy equipment.
Oh, yeah, they absolutely are.
Right. You walk into a biomedical wing and you see machines from the late 90s sitting right next to state-of-the-art tech. You've got equipment that has been patched together over decades with non-standard parts.
Frankenstein machines.
Yeah. So how can an AI trained on a bounded vocabulary possibly account for, like, a 30-year-old ventilator that's been modified over and over just to
Right.
keep it running? Because pointing a camera at something and slapping a label on it is definitely not the same as actually understanding its mechanical quirks.
You're totally right. And that is the exact distinction between legacy visual recognition and true work intelligence.
Okay.
To handle that 30-year-old modified ventilator, EON Universal doesn't just look at its outer shell. It processes what the sources call a 6-layer competence record for every single class in that bounded library.
6 layers, right?
It bridges the gap between simply seeing an object and mathematically understanding its physics.
Let's break down how these layers actually combine to form that understanding, because I think this is where the underlying mechanism of the AI really shines. So the first 2 layers are identity and geometry.
Right.
Identity covers the class, make, model, common aliases. Geometry brings in a 3D model combined with like multi-angle imagery.
Right. So if the goal is merely to recognize what an object is, just to slap a label on it, those 2 visual layers are entirely sufficient.
But recognition is easy.
Exactly. Recognition is easy, guidance is hard.
Yeah.
Actually helping a human being tear down and fix a machine requires composing the remaining 4 layers.
Okay, so layer 3 is anatomy.
Yeah, anatomy maps the subcomponents and the physical boundaries of the asset. It knows that this specific valve connects to this specific manifold.
And layer 4 is function. which dictates what the machine actually does and defines its normal operating envelope, like the baseline physics of its intended use.
Right, and then you layer on behavior, which is layer 5.
Behavior. Okay.
This asks, how does this device respond to upsets? Like, if a tube is blocked, what happens to the internal pressure? How does it act under abnormal conditions?
No, that's crucial.
It is. And finally, layer 6 is procedure. Based on all those previous layers, how do you safely operate it, inspect it, physically isolate it from power, and fix it?
So it is the synthesis of anatomy, function, and behavior that allows the AI to understand that 30-year-old legacy machine. Because even if the outer casing is totally obsolete, a pressure valve still behaves like a pressure valve.
Exactly. Structurally encoding all 6 of those layers is what separates an AI acting as like a glorified search engine from an AI possessing an active understanding of the work.
Right.
The source material highlights this evolution by comparing EON's older production-ready engine known as Genesis with this new EON Universal system.
Okay, so Genesis is essentially the on-ramp, right? It captures how a task is done and turns it into an interactive simulator.
Yes, but Genesis fundamentally just shows the sequential steps. It runs rigid standard operating procedures. It requires 3D models to be manually provided to it. And while it knows what step to show the technician next, it has no underlying concept of why it is showing it.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because comparing Genesis to EON Universal is kind of like comparing reading a recipe step by step to having a master chef standing right next to you in the kitchen.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Genesis is the written recipe. It says, put the chicken in the hot oil. It doesn't know what oil is, it just knows it's step 4. But EON Universal is the master chef who physically stops your hand and says, wait, you need to pat that chicken dry first because I understand the physical behavior of water meeting boiling oil, and I know why skipping this unwritten step is going to cause a fire.
That analogy captures the entire product shift beautifully. We are moving from playing back a recording of steps to applying physical judgment.
Yeah.
And because EON Universal understands the equipment at this deep mechanical level, it unlocks 7 specific training capabilities that a scripted simulator like Genesis simply cannot execute.
Yeah, and some of these capabilities sound straight out of science fiction. Like you
Yeah.
have talking components where a technician can point at a specific valve and the part will literally explain its own function and operating limits.
It's wild.
You have dynamic fault injection where the AI can simulate a sudden drop in pressure during a training exercise. So it forces the trainee to actually recognize and troubleshoot a problem instead of just blindly clicking through a script.
Right.
There are generative configurations, augmented reality practice environments, and defensible certification to definitively prove a worker's competence. But the feature that truly illustrates the stakes here, the one that really caught my eye, is the conditional SOP, the procedures that branch based on live physical realities.
Yes. This is where the technology transitions from just a highly efficient training tool to an active, life-saving safety mechanism.
Yeah.
To fully grasp the difference between showing a sequence of steps and understanding the physical nature of work, we have to look at the defibrillator example detailed in the press release.
Okay, let's walk through the mechanics of this, because a standard operating procedure, the kind you'd find in a normal manual, is just a straight line, right?
Right. Do step A, then step B, then step C.
But a conditional SOP acts as a decision tree filled with safety gates. So imagine our green technician is tasked with servicing a defibrillator. The standard steps seem super obvious. Power the machine down, physically isolate it from the wall, and remove the battery. Now, under normal circumstances, a technician would just proceed to open the casing.
But here, EON Universal halts the technician. It throws up a critical safety gate asking, is capacitor charge still present?
Right. And if the technician confirms a charge is present, the system actively branches off the main procedure.
It guides the worker through a subroutine to discharge the capacitor safely before rechecking the status. And if no charge is present, it allows the service to continue.
And crucially, if the system detects any abnormal condition it can't resolve, it immediately stops the job and escalates for human verification.
Exactly. And the underlying physics here are what make this so vital. Because a capacitor is essentially a temporary battery designed to dump a massive amount of electrical energy all at once to restart a heart.
Right. Powering the machine off doesn't just automatically empty the capacitor.
No, it doesn't. And the only reason that safety gate exists in the system is because EON Universal possesses that 5th layer of knowledge behavior.
Behavior, right.
It understands that a defibrillator's capacitor is literally designed to hold a lethal electrical charge long after the machine has been unplugged. Genesis, the older engine, only knows what a capacitor looks like visually.
It has no concept of stored electrical charge.
None. So it cannot branch on a condition it doesn't comprehend. A system must truly understand the physics and behavioral quirks of a component to author a procedure that adapts to it dynamically.
Because if I'm a new tech on my first week, my human intuition tells me, well, I unplugged it, I took out the battery, the power is off, so the internal wiring is totally safe to touch.
Right, that's what anyone would think.
Without that behavioral understanding being actively supplied to me, following a straight-line checklist could literally be fatal. It is terrifyingly easy to see how a catastrophic mistake happens when you only have half the context.
Absolutely. And Mats Johansson, the president and co-founder of EON AI Ventures, summarized this exact threshold perfectly in the source material.
What did he say?
He noted, the moment the system knows that a defibrillator's capacitor holds a lethal charge after power off, training stops being a recording and becomes judgment a worker can carry into the field.
Judgment a worker can carry into the field, that is a great quote, because it elevates the AI from just a digital manual to an active guardian.
Yes, exactly.
But how does this guardian actually interface with the worker on the floor? The sources outline 3 distinct delivery surfaces built around this philosophy of author once, deliver everywhere. So they generate the intelligence centrally, but it meets the worker wherever they are.
Right. The first delivery surface is categorized simply as anywhere.
Okay.
This utilizes just a standard mobile phone or AR glasses to allow a technician to practice a procedure in augmented reality at a true one-to-one scale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they can walk around a holographic rendering of a ventilator right in their living room, familiarizing themselves with the anatomy without needing to take a critical physical device out of circulation just for training.
That is so efficient. And the second surface brings it in the shop. So you're holding a tablet or wearing AR glasses, but now you are standing in front of the actual broken device.
Right.
The tablet uses LiDAR, which are depth-sensing lasers that map the physical contours of the room and the object, to overlay a digital twin perfectly onto the real machine.
Which means the digital schematic aligns flawlessly with the physical bolts and wires right in front of you.
Right. Every physical part becomes tappable and interactive through your screen.
It's incredible. And then the third, premium surface, is called immersive. They refer to it as the CAE, or the holodeck.
A holodeck, I love that.
Right. This represents a modern rebirth of legacy immersive simulation rooms like the iCube. It utilizes wraparound LED walls and floors to completely surround the trainee.
So generating a full-scale, highly realistic bay where they can practice complex, multi-step teardowns in a fully controlled physical space. Now, while the focus of this breaking release is solving the expertise cliff in hospitals, the underlying math of this bounded library means this isn't just a medical breakthrough, is it?
No, not at all. EON AI Ventures has actually been building toward this for 25 years. This method applies to literally any heavy industry built from finite physical components.
The press release notes that their foundational library was initially proven in the oil and gas sector, structured around ISO 145224 reliability standards.
Yeah, and they are actively expanding into aerospace, maintenance, repair, and overhaul, as well as the power and energy sectors.
Because the logic remains totally identical. You train the AI on the fundamental vocabulary of turbines and valves once, and you instantly elevate the safety baseline for every single remote site on Earth built from those components.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for the broader landscape of artificial intelligence? The founder and chairman of EON AI Ventures, Dan Lidgerskar, coined the phrase, "own the work, not the weights."
That's a fascinating distinction he makes.
It really is. It distinguishes between the general-purpose AI we see in the news all the time and the highly specialized AI required for heavy industry. Like, a large language model can scrape the entire public internet. It can write poetry. It can pass the bar exam.
Sure.
But it cannot learn how your specific hospital ward operates because the highly specialized institutional knowledge of how to coax a malfunctioning legacy ventilator back to life that has never been uploaded to the internet.
No, that knowledge lives exclusively in the heads of your senior technicians.
Right.
What's fascinating here is that we are witnessing the birth of an entirely new category of enterprise software. If you consider how businesses operate today, an ERP system manages a company's financial resources and supply chains, right?
Right. And a CRM manages its customer relationship.
Exactly. But until now, there has been no dedicated system of record to capture the actual physical execution of expert mechanical work.
And work intelligence fills that void.
It does. It extracts that localized, unspoken human intuition and codifies it into a compounding digital asset that the enterprise actually owns.
I want you, the listener, to think about your own workplace for a moment. Think about the person who has been there the longest. The veteran who just inherently knows how to navigate the trickiest problems, the one everyone goes to when the standard manual fails.
Every workplace has one.
Right. What if all of their unspoken institutional intuition, their deep understanding of how things behave under stress, could be captured, codified, and handed to you on your very first day through a pair of AR glasses?
But we are transitioning away from an era where critical competence relies entirely on the fragile memory of an aging workforce.
Yeah.
We are entering an era where competence is guaranteed by facility-agnostic AI. EON Universal isn't just serving up better instructions. It is actively overlaying expert judgment onto reality, ensuring that a lack of experience no longer equates to a lack of safety.
It is a massive paradigm shift. Just to quickly recap the journey we've been on today, we started by looking at the terrifying expertise, cliff-threatening healthcare, where seasoned engineers are taking decades of intuition into retirement.
Right.
We explored how the industry is finally ditching the endless, impossible task of memorizing every machine in favor of a bounded vocabulary of just 50 core device classes.
Which changes the economics entirely.
And we saw how a 6-layer competence record allows an AI to actually understand the lethal physical behavior of a defibrillator's capacitor, actively bridging the gap between just seeing a part and knowing how it works.
It serves as a really powerful reminder that the next frontier of artificial intelligence isn't just about processing text faster or generating images. It is about deeply understanding the physical rules of our world and keeping the humans who work within it safe.
Absolutely. Whether you are a lifelong learner trying to stay ahead of the tech curve, or you actively work in a high-stakes, safety-critical field, this shift from simply recording steps to compounding work intelligence is going to drastically impact how you interact with the physical tools of your trade.
Without a doubt.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. We started this deep dive by picturing that green technician on their first day, relying entirely on EON Universal to safely navigate a life-or-death procedure.
Yeah, the AI is effectively acting as a prosthesis for the intuition the worker hasn't yet developed.
Right. But if a system can flawlessly guide a green worker by overlaying expert judgment directly onto their field of vision, catching their mistakes before they happen, and explaining the physics of every step, what happens to human intuition over a span of decades?
That's the real question.
When the AR glasses are doing the heavy lifting of spatial reasoning and predicting mechanical behavior, do the human workers eventually absorb that logic and become true, independent masters of their craft much faster than before? Or do they simply become incredibly, flawlessly efficient biological extensions of the machine, entirely dependent on the AI's instructions to function?
It's definitely something to think about.
It is something to think about the next time you hear that rhythmic beep of a hospital monitor and wonder who is keeping it running. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, and we will catch you next time.